Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to take a look at how we can create box plots in Jamovi. So remember, box plots are basically a visual way of how we can represent a 5-number summary. And also we can use them to easily compare two groups to one another. The way that we are going to do this is first import our data into Jamovi. And so the data here that we are dealing with is how many years of school has somebody had and their gender. So let's go ahead and add those in. So in A, we're just going to put maybe years underscore school. And this is ordinal integer, or also known as discrete numerical. And we have our order levels all set. And then the next one that we want to do is jump on over, and we can call this sex or gender, and it's nominal and text. Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and hide that, and we can get rid of this as well. Okay, so now we're trying to figure out, okay, which of these box plots best represents the data that was given to us. So we need to now be able to create a box plot. Okay, so in order to do this, what we can do is we can go to our exploration, and we can go down to our descriptives. Okay, if we want to do this, we can just grab years of school, drag it over to our variables. We have a bunch of statistics, and I am actually going to keep some of this stuff, but I'm going to remove a few things as well. So what I actually want to do is in my descriptives, I want my 5-number summary. So I'm actually going to go to percentile values, and I'm going to click on percentiles, and it says, okay, it's going to give us the 25th, the 50th, and the 75th. Those are most of what we need for a 5-number summary, but we also want 0 and 100. And this gives us our typical 5-number summary. Now, this does not take into account outliers, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But this is a true 5-number summary: minimum, maximum, and the breakpoints of our separate 25% cutoffs. Okay, so now that we have that, we can kind of minimize that, and now we can go and just click on Boxplot. Now, depending on the program that we have, sometimes it does box plots vertically, sometimes it does them horizontally. It just kind of depends upon which one you use, but the nice thing is that the information that they convey is the same. So if we look at this though, we realize that we are just looking at box plots and for the entire group. We haven't broken it down by gender as these ones have. Well, if we want to do that, all we have to do is select our sex, and then it says split by. And if we click on this and move it over here, it should update itself and be able to include the years of school by the 5-number summary and the box plots by the 5-number summary. So the one thing that we may want to do is sometimes we can either have the variables across columns. If we change this to variables across rows, what it's going to do is try to rewrite the descriptives into this format. I kind of like it having it across rows. You have it across columns, really doesn't matter. But now we have what we need to know. Okay, so we have our percentiles and we have our years of schools. We do have one outlier up here. And if you go back into some of those other videos that I've made, I teach about how we can determine exactly how a outlier is determined. But Jamovi will identify those for you where it's so far out of kind of the typical range that we mark it as an outlier. Okay, so if we look at kind of our men and women, it looks like that we have the same 0 point. But the next thing that we have is that for this data set, we have women at 9 and men at 11. So we need to kind of go down here and look at these, and we have, okay, so we have women at 8, men at 8, and then we have women at 9, men at 11. And none of these other box plots follow that pattern. And if we look, we also have the outlier up there. Everything looks good. So we are going to click on this one as the one that best defines our data types. Okay, so now we have this question. We have, okay, 75% of men have at least blank years of school. Okay, so we want to know that like most men have at least some level of schooling. So don't get tricked up on this one. Because if we just go look at 75th and we're like, oh yeah, 75th, it says 14. That actually says 75% of men have no more than 14, or we're going 14 and down to the left. If we want to have at least, we actually want to go down to 25 and say from 25 to the 50th to 75th to the 100th, 75% of men have at least 11 years of school. Okay, next one. Do men or women have the larger IQR? So IQR, remember, is the inner quartile range. It's who has the bigger range. And we could do it. It's just simply Q3 minus Q1, or the 75th minus the 25th. Or we can go to statistics, and we can just click on IQR, and it'll provide it for us for our groups. And after Jamovi updates, it says, hey, the IQRs for these two are actually equal. And then it says, okay, do men or women have the larger total range? And so we could look at range. Remember, it's the maximum minus the minimum. And if we did that, it would look like that men have the bigger range, 20 minus 3 instead of 14 minus 3. But we could also just range here and give Jamovi a second to update its descriptives for us. And we see that indeed men have a range band. So anyhow, that is how you can use Jamovi to create your 5 summary, how to get the numbers, the 5 numbers summary, how to find your IQR, and your range. So best of luck to you in using Jamovi to create your Boxplots.